Welcome, everyone, to today's live session as part of the AWS Routing Loop series, a weekly show where we cover the latest and greatest in AWS networking. My name is Sid. I'm a principal solutions architect here with AWS, and today we are talking about AWS Interconnect. It's a managed connectivity service that simplifies how you customers can establish private, high speed network connections with dedicated bandwidth to and from AWS across hybrid and multi cloud environments. But today, we are going to focus on one of its newest capabilities, Interconnect Last Mile. And this automates end-to-end process of connecting your on-premises locations to AWS. I'll let my speakers here walk you through how it works, along with a live console demo. And you'll see how in few clicks you can build this connectivity from scratch. We are very excited to have two guests here today. We have Anudeep from our AWS product management, and we are joined today with a special guest from Lumen who will be sharing a partner's perspective on how they enable this flow. With that, I'll hand it over Anudeep to introduce yourself and take it from there.
Thanks, Sid. Hello, everyone. I'm Anudeep Atlur. I'm a senior product manager with AWS Direct Connect. I've been with AWS for a little over a year now, based out of Seattle, and really excited about this session for more than one reason. It's, of course, my first Twitch on air. And secondly, this is one of those products that was genuinely born out of customers expressing their frustrations. Not necessarily with AWS, but the general state of enterprise last mile connectivity. So really excited to share some of these customer pain points that we saw and how we went about solving them.
And hi, folks. I'm Woody Walters. I'm a senior product manager with Lumen. I'm only 1 year deep with Lumen, but 25 years in the telecom industry. I'm based in San Francisco, California, just south of Anudeep. And yeah, very excited. Anudeep really nailed it in the intro here. We're excited to roll out something that directly addresses customer needs, I think in a very direct way.
Awesome. And folks, this is a interactive session. So if you have any questions, put them in chat. We are constantly monitoring it. We'll bring them up and answer all the questions you have as we go on. So with that, I think we should bring up the presentation to get started.
Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yep, I see it.
Perfect. So before we get into the product itself, right, I wanted to take a step back and talk about the motivation itself, because I feel it is something that you and I and Kevin and probably everyone in the audience would have felt firsthand at some or the other point. So if we look at where cloud infrastructure is today, right, be it compute or storage, it is instant, it is elastic, and you don't have to be a networking expert to use any of it, right? You can spin up these instances anytime you want, scale on demand. But if you look at connectivity, it almost looks like it didn't get the memo. And that is one of the major problems that we wanted to solve with the interconnect last mile. So the first and most important thing to know about interconnect last mile is that it is a service built on top of direct connect. Just to level set, direct connect is essentially AWS's private backbone that enterprises use instead of public internet when they need predictable performance, security, scale, and many a times it is also the more cost efficient solution, right? So it is a fantastic solution. Customers love using it when they have it, right? But getting to having it or getting to the last mile, well, that journey or process is very cumbersome and it could take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. Now, here is what the high level process looks like today. And honestly, this is not just with AWS, but pretty much with most cloud service providers out there today. You start with it is essentially a very yellow pages approach, right? So once you have determined which AWS region you want to use, you start with figuring out a potential on-ramp location. Once you have identified the on-ramp location, you comb through partner lists. And then you figure out who has the capacity, who can serve at a given location, who can you work with. The third aspect is procurement, which can, again, as you can imagine, take multiple back and forth negotiations and contract cycles. So by this time, typically enterprises will have burned a few weeks already to identify the right partner that they want to work with. Once you have identified the partner, you create a DX connection and generate what we call an LOA, letter of authorization, and hand it over to the co-location facility or the on-ramp location you have identified. This entails a technician actually being on the ground and establishing that cross connect between the customer cage and the AWS cage via a meet me room. So at this point of time, you have essentially established a physical fiber end to end. And the journey doesn't end there, right? So you have, after this, you have to manually still set up your network configuration, be it BGP peering, VLAN, or ASN. So overall, this process is slow and fragmented because, as you can imagine, you're already working with multiple stakeholders here: AWS, the meet me room co-location facility provider, the telco or carrier provider, and of course, maybe multiple internal teams. And look, if you were just trying to solve the provisioning and long deployment cycle problem, maybe we could have just thrown a few more people at it and streamlined it and moved on from there. But there have also been other consistent customer pain points and asks that we have seen over the years. First and most importantly, that changing bandwidth requires reprovisioning. So if you look at the current experience, if you are on a dedicated connection, the only way you can move from, let's say, 1 gig to 10 gig or a higher bandwidth speed is to establish a last mile circuit all over again. If you're on hosted connection, that currently involves creating a support ticket with a partner and then with AWS, and it typically takes about 4 to 5 days. The other thing that we have heard is that costs are hard to predict. We briefly talked about the complexity in network configuration. And finally, that from an operational standpoint, customers are still expected to manage their own resilience and plan around maintenance windows, which is one of the more common requests that we get. I was in a conversation with one of the FSI customers a few weeks ago, and you know how the FSI sector works. There are spiky periods or seasonal traffic, and they were asking if it was possible to schedule the maintenance window on their set of devices outside of that window, which may or may not always be possible. So what did we build? That is where Interconnect Last Mile comes into the picture. I would say it is founded in three broad pillars. The first is the ability to spin up a connection in a few clicks. So this gives customers faster time to value. And once we go into the demo with Woody, you'll be able to appreciate how simple the experience is. All you have to do is select the partner, region, and bandwidth. And in a matter of a few minutes, you have an end-to-end last mile connection set up. This other piece that we wanted to solve for is, of course, abstract out all of the network plumbing. So there is a lot of heavy lifting that is happening, but behind the scenes, we've taken it off the customer's plates. And finally, dynamic scaling. If customers need more capacity, if they want to go from 1 gig to 100 gig, then they should not be needing to create any support tickets. So a few things that stand out to me, and there's plenty to talk about, but scaling on demand is, I believe, one of the most requested features for Direct Connect. We support flexible bandwidth tiers all the way from 1 through 100. And as I mentioned, you don't have to re-provision your connection. What this has an implication on is that you can continue to push traffic without having to recreate the WIFs or DX gateways or further upstream with any other construct. So this is particularly a great tool or feature for customers who have seasonal traffic. This can be retail customers, this can be financial service customers, or it could just be customers who are now pushing or increasingly using Direct Connect to push AIML traffic, which is, of course, by nature, very spiky and bursty. The other aspect about Interconnect Last Mile is that it has built-in maximum resilience, and every connection comes with four wide resilience that we spin across four router pairs in two diverse sites. And of course, we back this up with 4 nines SLA, something that we did not support on hosted connections. Talking about security, the links between the AWS and Lumen routers or partner routers are MACsec encrypted. If we juxtapose this with the current experience as a customer, they have to select MACsec encryption specifically. In this case, it is turned on by default. They don't have to worry about BGP routing exchange. And finally, with as far as monitoring is concerned, every last mile connection comes bundled with one free network synthetic monitoring probe that the customers can use to point to any system. And the other aspect that we have heard from a few public sector firms, especially, is the unpredictability with pricing. The current pricing model that Direct Connect has, be it with dedicated or hosted, we have two dimensions. One is port hours, that depends on the amount of time that you have a port up and running, and DDO. DDO is essentially the egress traffic from the source region to destination region. And as you can imagine, there are hundreds of permutations and combinations because there are, well, over 151 DX locations today. So we have simplified all of that into a 5-tier system. And we can go into that in the details if need be, but at a high level, we have reduced it into one single dimension called connection hours, and it bakes in the DTO, port hours, and everything into one. And just to give you a brief glimpse of what is happening behind the scenes, right? So on the far right, you have essentially customer on-prem equipment. This can be on-prem locations, which are all branch offices, data centers, co-locations, think of what you will, but essentially they are locations that generate traffic. On the left, you have the AWS network, where the traffic lands on DX gateway, from which point onwards you can connect further upstream to directly to a VGW or talk to a Cloud WAN or transit gateway. And in the middle is where we are abstracting and orchestrating all of this magic, for lack of a better word. So what is essentially happening is the customer's on-prem equipment is connected to the partner's fabric. It is from an AWS standpoint, we support multiple transport or connectivity media depending on partners' availability at a given location or region. And what is essentially happening is that when a customer creates a 1 gig or a 10 gig connection, they are being exposed to only one logical object, or think of it as a logical wrapper, right? What is presented to them as a single attachment. Behind the scenes, what we are doing is creating or spinning up 4 virtual interfaces across 4 router pairs distributed across 2 sites. And each of those links that you see, for instance, the green link between the AWS router and partner router, is in turn a lag of multiple channels, multiple fiber cables. So as you can imagine, this allows us to provide customers with redundancy on multiple levels. There is link level redundancy, there is device level redundancy, and of course, redundancy at the site level. And finally, we are using ECMP routing. So what that allows us to do is load balance traffic across all 4 WIFs that you see on the screen. So a single device failure doesn't bring down your entire connection. And what this also has does is it has second order effects on things like maintenance and migration and reprovisioning, right? What this ensures is that, for instance, when we are doing any kind of maintenance, we are not bringing down all 4 connections together, all 4 virtual interfaces together. If you're scaling up from 1 gig to 50 gig, what is essentially happening behind the scenes is we are provisioning new virtual interfaces behind the same logical wrapper, so that you get almost hitless reprovisioning. So that's a bit about what is happening behind the scenes. As you can imagine, none of this would be possible without a deep integration with Lumen, and they have been an incredible partner in bringing this to life. So I will pass it over to Woody.
Great. Let me know. Have we switched over to my desktop?
Getting there. Yep, I see your desktop now. Yep.
All right, fantastic. So that was a great intro. Thanks, Anadeep. So let's talk a little bit about why Lumen and why this partnership and what the roadmap looks like from our side as well. So Lumen stands out as a premier choice for ILM with AWS due to our vast and reliable network infrastructure. With over 340,000 route fiber miles globally, Lumen ensures extensive reach and dependable connectivity. Our 163,000 plus on-net buildings provide robust last mile infrastructure critical for enterprise connectivity. Access to more than 2,200 third-party data centers enables seamless cloud and co-location integration across major markets. The 4 nines uptime SLA guarantees exceptional reliability for this product. It's essential, I believe, for mission-critical applications, right? With over 20 years of experience serving Fortune 500 companies, Lumen brings proven expertise in delivering high-performance solutions like this. Notably, Lumen is the first provider collaborating directly with AWS to co-develop ILM. We influenced product design, customer experience, and the future roadmap, positioning them as a market leader in this space. This slide highlights the powerful collaboration between Lumen and AWS to deliver simplified, scalable cloud connectivity. Lumen contributes deep fiber reach, multi-cloud routing, and operational simplicity, while AWS provides scalable, API-driven cloud access with marketplace integration and resilient direct connect capabilities. Together, we offer united, hosted, and dedicated connectivity model, multi-cloud gateways with dynamic routing, rapid provisioning via AWS Console, and resilient monitored last mile connectivity. The partnership ensures enterprises benefit from seamless, high-performance connections tailored for modern cloud environments. These capabilities translate directly into business outcomes. Built-in resiliency minimizes downtime. Rapid auto-provisioning accelerates deployment. Elastic bandwidth supports dynamic workloads like AI and machine learning. And simplified management reduces operational burden, all while maintaining enterprise-grade reliability. Here's a quick peek at the customer journey, and we'll talk about this more as we do live demos through both sides of our portals here. In stage one, the customer is going to order in the Direct Connect console and the AWS console. Okay. Once that's provisioned, stage two, you will launch to the Lumen Connect portal, where you'll log in and authenticate, enter an activation key received from AWS, and then build your service parameters on the Lumen side for the Lumen Connect service. Stage three, we have automated provisioning. The Lumen API calls AWS APIs. We exchange information synchronously. We build the BGP sessions, instantiate all the channels and equipment in the enterprise architecture, and we establish those 4 diverse paths that Anadeep mentioned. In the 4th stage, the connection goes live. Within anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes of automated provisioning, your service is up and running. The 4 diverse BGP paths will be active. Load balancing will be enabled. Routes will be propagated. Your SLA clock starts, and the monitoring dashboards are all active, where you can monitor your components and manage your service. And of course, I want to mention that we have unified monitoring. You can monitor it via the AWS console. You can also monitor it via the Lumen Connect portal. You can adjust your bandwidth on demand. And we have a single site where you can issue maintenance tickets here in our portal. Customer requirements and activation paths. This is tailored towards customers who are already AWS and Lumen customers, but if you're not a Lumen customer yet, we can also get you on board. If you're a current Lumen customer, if you already have in place an existing Lumen port, you've established connectivity from your site to the Lumen network. In order to order Interconnect Last Mile, you'll need a Lumen port that can connect to an AWS Direct Connect location. If you're not sure if your port is ready for that, you can reach out to your sales professional and we'll check your inventory and validate that. We also need to validate that the existing port has enough bandwidth to support the bandwidth you want to add via your connection. Okay. And of course, you need an AWS account ready to go, ready to accept the DX gateway and the VPC attachments. From there, we'll confirm your Lumen port eligibility. You'll go order your AWS Interconnect Last Mile. We'll configure your routing as we discussed, and then you'll attach your VPCs and go live. If you're not a Lumen customer, you do need to have a Lumen port or service installed at your site. Today, that means reaching out to a sales professional, ordering an applicable Lumen port with appropriate bandwidth, and having it installed at your site and ready to go. You will then follow the same purchasing stages that we've just discussed and that we'll show you in the demo. The activation flow you'll find is very simple. Just to talk a little bit about the key considerations for our launch here. Within our general availability launch, Interconnect Last Mile launches in the US East with expansion planned across other major US regions. Customers benefit from scalable bandwidth with options from 1 to 100 gig. We've got built-in security like MACsec, automated provisioning via the AWS partner APIs, and SLA-backed resiliency with 4 nines. Here's a little bit deeper look at the roadmap. So this product went GA 2 weeks ago now, I believe, right? So as I mentioned, starting with one region and quickly expanding to many other regions in the United States. Connectivity options right now is via a single port. In an upcoming release here, I would say we're maybe a month away. We will enable not only single port connectivity, but also multi-port connectivity through our product called Multi-Cloud Gateway, and I'll talk about that more in a second. The customer entry points are AWS for the solicitation of interest, and we have quickly migrated up to AWS and Lumen consoles where you can make the purchase in both consoles here, so that's already integrated. Provider discovery, today it's Lumen only as your provider for this service. In the future, there will be a provider discovery enabled through the AWS console. We have MACsec encryption enabled and managed between Lumen and AWS, and that's backed by the 4 nines SLAs to ensure connectivity and security at all times. Coming in a future expansion, we will be releasing other integrations for advanced security and monitoring capabilities. Right now, the management experience is through the AWS and Lumen consoles. You can manage on both sides, and we'll show you what that looks like a little bit in the demo, what you can do on each side. Deeper controls are planned for future launches within Lumen Connect, along with expanded lifecycle management. Anodeep gave you a quick peek at what the architecture looks like. Here's a peek at what it looks like more from the Lumen perspective. The section over here to the left hand of the screen, he previously displayed as saying something I think like partner connectivity fabric. Just to take a step a little bit deeper into that. From the Lumen connectivity fabric, we have the 4 channels of redundancy that we've connected directly to AWS, right? Coming out of those channels, we route your traffic through something called the Multi-Cloud Gateway. This is something we're using as enterprise architecture today with this product, but we will be releasing it in mid-May as a standalone product as well. Multi-Cloud Gateway is a virtualized layer 3 routing service deployed on the Lumen connectivity fabric. It centralizes IP routing policy, traffic control, and route exchange across private cloud and enterprise networks. Multi-Cloud Gateway is a logical routing construct, not a physical device, and it's not a transport service. It's designed to simplify scalable, hybrid, and multi-cloud architectures by separating routing control from underlying connectivity. And so today, the service it's providing is it enables us to have this layer 3 routing functionality that we want to achieve for this product. What we do is we build a virtual port from this virtual router towards AWS for the 4 channels of redundancy. We then build a virtual port facing towards the customer's port. We instantiate a fabric connection from the Multi-Cloud Gateway to the customer's fabric port to turn this service up. And the customer will manage routing between the fabric port and the Multi-Cloud Gateway. So you can manage your BGP routes, set up prefix lists, etc. We'll show you this in the demo. Everything from the multi-cloud gateway facing towards AWS. That's the managed part of this service. Lumen and AWS manage this in partnership to keep the service up and functioning at all times. Thanks. Anudeep, you want to take a peek at the demo?
Sounds good. Let me know once you're able to see my screen. You should be seeing the AWS console.
Yep, we can see that.
Fantastic. Right. I think now we'll be able to better appreciate how simplified the end-to-end experience is. So this is your AWS console as usual. As you can probably find two additions to this console in the form of Interconnect Multi-Cloud and Last Mile. So if you want to spin up a Last Mile connection, you select Interconnect Last Mile, hit Create Last Mile Interconnect. Now, of course, we have G8 with Lumen precisely 2 weeks ago. So you're going to select Lumen, assuming you're on net with Lumen. As Woody mentioned, we are currently only available in New York Metro. So you can connect, the physical point of interconnection is the NYC Metro in US East 1. But I do want to highlight that from a reachability standpoint, because the logical object connects to a direct connect gateway, you can still technically talk to any AWS region. It is only the physical point of interconnection that is New York. So you select that. Now we can give it some names. Test Lumen. We can spin up any bandwidth speed all the way from 1 through 100. We can try a 10 gig connection, direct connect gateway. This is something that is necessary to create this connection. There are a couple of options here. In case you already have one created, you can select it from the dropdown, that it will be tied to your AWS account. Just in case you don't happen to have a direct connect gateway already created, you can also create one on the fly on the side here. And as far as the part provider account ID is concerned, this is essentially your email ID that you use to log into your Lumen account. That's your subscriber ID. And once you confirm these details, the system generates this activation key. And you essentially take this activation key, copy it over, and head over to the Lumen activation page. So I'll share it on chat with Woody. And Woody, I will pass it over to you to take customers through the rest of the process.
Okay.
So that's all on the AWS console.
All right, let me know when I'm live here.
Yep, we can see your screen.
Fantastic. And so I know I had a little bit of freezing issues there previously, so I'm going to share like a tab at a time here. We'll see if we can simplify things. So when you launch through the link in the AWS portal, you will come into Lumen Connect. The first thing you'll see is a request to log in and authenticate. And then you'll jump to this screen here where you add the service in your purchasing flow. So the first thing we're going to ask you to do is select your customer ID. And then select the associated band that you want to bill to. You'll give your service a nickname, whatever nickname you decide to provide, and it's optional if you want to put a description in here to help you manage the services later down the road. I've cheated a little bit, and I already pasted the AWS activation key into this box. And as you can see here, we run validation on it immediately to make sure that we're talking about the same customer and the same service, and this is a valid key that you've given us. You will then select your source port. This is an inventory of your ports that are available underneath your band that you'll say, okay, I want to connect my ILM to this port, so we'll just grab one. And then you will specify your VLAN. It must be a VLAN that's available on your network, and that you'll later configure this on your equipment. Okay, and we run immediate checks on this to make sure that the port has available bandwidth, that the VLAN is available as far as we know in our inventory, and that they align with what you're requesting in the AWS key. We've used that key to translate how much bandwidth are you ordering, what kind of service do you want, etc. As you can see here, everything is validated in all the fields. You're ready to go. I'll just mention here, Lumen does provide IP addressing and a private ASN for the BGP sessions between Lumen and your network. All right, we set that up automatically. Lower on the screen, you'll be asked to provide some basic BGP prefix policies that you want to apply. Do you want to deny all or allow all as a default setting when you turn this on? Then we have a couple of BGP configuration options you can select from if you so choose to enable MD5 authentication or BFD. When we click continue, you basically will get just a little reminder of what we're provisioning here and some additional details. Our class of service is dedicated, just reconfirming the band that we want to build to. Here's the bandwidth tier being confirmed on our side, again, which we translated from the key. Today, we're billing these monthly. In the future, you will have the option to select monthly or hourly billing. We'll continue. And here we give you a further review of the details for your order. If you have any concern with any of the details, you want to go back, of course, we have a previous button. You can go back and make changes and then make your way back to this screen. And I'm going to cheat here a little bit. When I press submit, it could take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to provision your service and have us exchange data with AWS via the APIs. Rather than have you wait, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare in a different tab. Just one moment, please. And let's just do it this way. All right. You guys are seeing my service details screen okay?
It's still coming up. Give me,
okay.
Let's give it a few seconds. I don't see it yet.
Let's see. Let me try again.
Okay, I see something coming up now. Yep, service details, yes.
Fantastic. Okay, a little bit of delay on my end. So once you press submit on your service, we will go provision that automatically. And you will be directed to a service details screen to show you the components of your service and give you all the associated details you need and enable the management functions. So what we've done is jump to one that's already existing in our test system so that you don't have to wait while we provision the service. You'll see here, you've got your Lumen Cloud Interconnect with your service IDs, the nicknames you've given it, etc. Your locations are confirmed. So this was the port that the customer chose. Here's the location where that port resides and the VLAN that the customer chose. The destination location is AWS, and we reconfirm that region for you. We've got some service and pricing details reconfirmed down here, along with the billing rate, etc. Then at the bottom of the screen, we have links to your components. As I mentioned, we've got a multi-cloud gateway. That's the virtual layer 3 routing service that we deploy to manage the service. We also have interfaces. These are the virtual ports that we plug your fabric connections into. I'm going to click on the multi-cloud gateway and give you a quick peek at that. This is the place where your layer 3 routing policies are applied. Okay, and again, you provision these in the console and we apply them in the network between the port and the multi-cloud gateway. Here's another statement of your service details. We show you your service components. You've got ports facing the cloud and ports facing the customer port. You can see here's your Lumen Cloud Interconnect service again, if you want to go back to that. We also show you a link to the fabric connection that we built from the Lumen connectivity fabric out to the customer port, right? So if you're interested in managing your interfaces, we give you a tab for that. You can turn these up and down, view details and manage things. Here's a quick peek at, this is where you would create BGP sessions, modify them, delete, etc., change. We have a policy tab where you can create and turn on and off prefix lists. You can create denial, accept all, anything in between, that's up to you, right? We also have a tab where you can look at your static routes and manage them as well. Okay. Coming in a future release is a telemetry tab, which will let you take a peek at how your service is functioning. And we will also be introducing a topology so that you can get a look at your network as you build out additional sites and connectivity points to make it easier to manage. One thing that I want to point out here, also in the upper right-hand corner, is where we have our actions button. You can issue repair tickets. You can update description and nicknames. That's up to you. You can also delete the service if you wish to do that. I'm going to jump back to the Lumen Cloud Interconnect service details screen and also just show you that within actions you have the option to update bandwidth. Here's where you can dynamically scale your bandwidth up and down to the predefined tiers based on your needs. And we will communicate this via API synchronously with AWS so they're aware that you want your bandwidth to scale. I think that covers it. Anodeep, anything else that you want to add?
This is great. And maybe one additional aspect we can show is how we can reprovision a connection. What I mean by reprovisioning is, for instance, are you able to see my screen?
Not yet. It's coming. Yeah.
There we go.
It's here.
Awesome.
Yep.
So we wanted to touch upon one of the other aspects, right? So sometimes customers see spiky traffic, the workloads can fluctuate. So what if you have turned up a 1 gig connection or a 10 gig connection that we requested a couple of seconds ago, and then you realize that you need to quickly scale up to 50 or 100. That is as simple as hitting edit and selecting the bandwidth speed that you need. And you hit edit interconnect, and behind the scenes, we just rescale and reprovision the WIFs. And all this while, you won't see any downtime in your customer traffic.
So, Anudeep, we have a question from Venkatesh. He's asking, this is great, 10 gig to 100 gig dynamic bandwidth adjustment, but will there be a downtime to be expected when the scaling takes place?
No, so that's a great question. And one of the things we wanted to make sure about is to make this as hitless as possible. Now, that is maybe a great blog idea to run some metrics around any kind of packet loss or BGP flaps that we are seeing, but it is designed to be as seamless as possible. You should not be seeing any drops. And to talk a bit more about it, behind the scenes, what we're essentially doing is, by default, we are provisioning 4 virtual interfaces, correct? So now if you want to go from 10 to 50, we are not taking those 4 WIFs down. We are attaching 4 additional WIFs. So at one point of time, you are potentially seeing 8 connections behind the scenes. And only once we are depreferencing the routes, we are taking down the previous connection. So that is what allows this to be seamless.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah, just to answer that question a little bit from the Lumen perspective, for a customer that establishes BGP sessions between their port and the Lumen network, you do have the ability to modify those BGP sessions without having to tear down the session or have downtime, right? You can monitor your prefix or modify your prefix lists, modify your AS path prepend, local pref, med, etc. We do have some items that require some small downtime, like modifying your MD5 authentication, modifying a remote peer, or enabling or disabling an IPv4, IPv6 address on an interface. So most of the activity that you have, again, is real time with no downtime.
And this should, again, take somewhere from 10 to 15 minutes tops.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. 10 to 15 minutes, and you get the scalability with hardly any disruption.
Yeah. And from a pricing standpoint as well, that is the level of granularity we are now extending to customers. They will be charged hourly. So you can use 10 gig for an hour, and if you switch over to a different bandwidth speed, we will recalibrate the billing in our systems.
Yeah, I can see this super helpful when you have an event coming up, customers have an event coming up, a major release coming up, and they can sort of scale up for a couple of days and then scale down. as some of the demand stabilizes. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. I don't see any other questions in chat, folks. If you have any other final questions, let us know. We can bring them up. Anything else, Anudeep and Woody, you guys wanted to cover? I know we didn't necessarily dive into pricing. I did see some pricing in the during the provisioning phase show up there. Maybe you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we will also drop links for anybody interested in learning more. So essentially, we have abstracted out both the pricing dimensions today, port hours and DTO. And what you will see is that the price that you see is going to be a function of the number of hours you're going to be using Interconnect Last Mile for, and the pricing tier. Again, it is designed to be super simple. There are 5 tiers, and think of it this way: the further the distance from the interconnect metro to the source AWS region where your workloads are hosted, the higher the pricing tier. So if it is local traffic, if you're connecting from NYC Metro to US East 1, it is going to be tier 1. If you are accessing a workload in US West, then it is going to be tier 2. And likewise, if you go further out, if you're using a DX gateway to connect to I don't know, TGW and then further in Singapore, then it is going to be tier 4.
And on the Lumen side, Lumen has 3 monthly recurring charges that a customer will incur. As I mentioned, the port should be existing and functioning on your site or in your data center, wherever you decide to place it. So you will be, of course, charged for your port. With Lumen Cloud Interconnect, we bill on our side for the service. So we bill based on the bandwidth that you choose. 1 gig of bandwidth, for example, is $563 a month. Everywhere from 1 gig up to 100 gig is available. You can take a look at our pricing chart later. 100 gig is available at $3,730 per month. The other thing that you will be charged for is the Ethernet fabric connection that goes from the Lumen connectivity fabric to your port. Pricing is applied dependent upon location, okay, which is standard in the industry, so I think everybody's familiar with that. So 3 components you will be charged for at this time. In a future release, we'll be supporting additional architectures and additional connectivity options, so keep a lookout for that announcement.
Awesome. I do see another question here from Venkatesh. This is specifically for you, Anudeep, from a product expansion standpoint. Do we have a plan to add other providers and scale to other providers like AT&T and others in the future?
Yes. There is a long list of partners that we are working with across different regions and countries. So from a region standpoint, of course, we went GA with New York Metro. We are going to have 5 more metros by the end of Q4, spanning all AWS regions. And yes, AT&T is one of the partners that we are working with. There's also Megaport and Equinix and a few others. So stay tuned. It should reflect on the Last Mile website.
Awesome. Yeah, the future is exciting. So we have a question for Woody. Just sort of a confirmation question from Venkatesh. He's asking, so just to be sure, they don't have to work with colos to do cross connects, and it's all taken care by Lumen. Is that what you're saying?
That's 100% correct. Yes.
Awesome.
So
That's exciting.
What's happening behind the scenes is, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, so what I was saying is the reason why they don't have to no longer worry about any kind of cross connects and LOAs and all of that business is that we are pre-cabling large capacities in these interconnect metros. So yeah, that gets customers around the wait time and escalations to AWS and partners and the colo facility. So we've seen that a lot.
Yeah, and that's the key to our high SLA, right? Because we're provisioning redundant channels between the two companies and managing them between us. Yeah, you don't need to establish a cross connect or anything. Those are up and ready to go. We just turn them on when you order the service. And even if 2 or 3 channels go down for some miraculous maintenance event, your service still stays up. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I don't see any other questions in chat. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts or comments, Anudeep or Woody, from your end?
Like, share, and subscribe. No, feel free to try out Interconnect Last Mile. You'll find that it is designed to be, very simple for anyone to use, designed to be flexible and scalable. And let us know if you have any feedback. We're all ears.
Likewise, we encourage you to visit the portals and click around and play with the service, look for information. And if you have an established sales relationship, please reach out to your salesperson. They're very informed and ready to help guide you on this journey. Even though the services are designed to be very self-serve in the portals, we're happy to help you understand, how can these services serve you best and what's needed to get them up and running.
Amazing. Okay. So with that, folks, we have come to the end of our session. I appreciate Woody and Anudeep taking the time to share about Last Mile Interconnect with our audience here. And folks, thanks for tuning in and learning about this service. We are really excited to see you guys adopt it and do great things with it. With that, thank you for joining. We'll be back next week, same time, with a new episode on the routing loop, with a new topic in the world of AWS networking. Till then, hope you guys have a great week and see you guys next week.
Thank you for having us.